All right, this is SFBarkast. I am Jeff Cleary.
I'm Andrew Louder.
And Andrew, where are we today?
We are at the BoardRoom.
The BoardRoom in North Beach.
Which is B-O-A-R-D, not B-O-R-E-D.
I make that joke all the time with board games because I hate board games. I was like, yes, I am B-O-R-E-D.
I actually, in 5th grade, maybe 5th or 6th grade, I had this teacher.
Ooh, don't get me started on board games.
I had this teacher, I believe his name was Mr. Forsloff, but he was he is sort of like a big mustachioed 4'9" guy, like full of anger, teaching children.
There's no way that guy is going to get made fun of by kids.
Well, and I was wearing my Pride and Joy T-shirt at the moment, which was sort of like a cartoon of like a smirk, like almost, and then it said Board of Education, B-O-R-E-D of Education. And he fucking flipped out and made me turn it inside out for the rest of the day.
Wow.
I know, which today would probably land him in prison or something.
How many times am I going to tell you louder that T-shirts are a privilege, not a right?
Like today, I'd be like the most famous kid in the world for 2 minutes here, because like everybody would be like he's trampling on free speech. What about my "Don't Tread on Me" shirt?
Hey, did you get any respect from the other kids? Where they're like, did you hear what Louder did? He had to turn his fucking T-shirt inside out.
I think it was more like, hey, what's your problem? You got a T-shirt on inside out, stupid.
You're like, wouldn't you know it, the one guy in the school that gets that T-shirt joke would be so offended they'd make you turn it inside out.
Exactly.
And
he was probably bored himself.
When I was in grade school, the principal had in his office a wooden paddle that said the Board of Education. Haha. Yeah, it's funny because he beats kids with it.
Well, we could easily fill the entire show with board versus B-O-R-E-D jokes.
I mean, I'm going to go off on like a tangent here, but I saw this list online, of course. Okay. Imagine that, an article that lists stuff.
Was it a full-on list or was it a listicle?
It's a listicle.
Oh, okay, good.
But it was a list of reasons why if you survived the 70s, if you're a child in the 70s, why you should be dead. And so there's some obvious ones where it's
you were raised by baby boomers. They're the biggest idiots of all time.
Well, it's nobody used seatbelts. Seatbelts on a car? Right. Hell no.
Why would you need a seatbelt? The dashboard's made of metal anyway, and it'll slice your face in half as soon as you hit it. So
there's nobody wore bike helmets, which I still don't because I feel like I'm grandfathered in.
Yeah, exactly.
And then some of the
it's kind of like when you make yourself immune to a disease by taking a little bit of it. If you constantly hit your head just a tiny little bit, maybe you're completely immune to it.
So you're saying you have a concussion vaccination here?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and wearing a helmet is sort of the equivalent of taking the same antibiotic over and over again, where your body just gets used to it. And so your skull will get mushy because it doesn't have to be as hard anymore.
I'll have to look up what the other ones were, but one of them was lawn jarts. Do you remember those?
Of course.
Of
course, but I only remember playing those when I was maybe up to the age of 5 or 6. After then, they were just boring. So when you're 5 or 6, you can kill somebody with it.
If people don't know, it's these huge darts that you throw at each other.
Well, they're not even really darts. They're just sort of lead weights that are pointed. so that you can throw them 2 stories in the air, and then it becomes this fucking intercontinental ballistic missile right into your skull.
Right. And they're not sharp, but they're darts. So if you throw these 60 feet, and the object of the game was you had a little hula hoop on the floor, on the ground, and you would throw the dart, and if it goes in the hoop, you score a point. If it goes in your head, you don't get a point.
No, you lose a point off your IQ.
Because no points for. I guess they took them off the market because there were too many people going to the hospital with head injuries and also we thought they were a lot of fun but we got kind of bored with the game.
Yeah.
So we had to come up with our new rules where it was you had to catch the jar. So you would throw it
with your mouth.
You would throw it at your best friend from down the street, Lenny Rose, and he would have to sidestep it and catch it with his hand.
It's you have to imagine the decathlon sport, the javelin. Kids have to grow up playing that, right? So how many people get fucking speared through the knee or whatever while they're screwing around with that. But speaking of being responsible with children,
right.
The last couple of days we've had some good examples of that. The best, my favorite, being the guy that was an instructor at a gun range and decided to let a 9-year-old girl have a loaded Uzi automatic weapon, and she proceeded to shoot him and kill him. Which, it's terrible that she's going to have to live with that for the rest of her life, but it's also hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, do you think she did it on purpose?
I mean, certainly she can always revise the story later and be like, that fucking idiot. Like, of course I was going to kill him. How many other, 3-year-olds was he going to give guns to?
Yeah, even if she had to go to trial and they proved that she did it on purpose, her defense could be, he gave an Uzi to a 9-year-old girl.
I mean, isn't he
really
at least partially responsible for giving me the weapon that killed him?
Exactly.
And saying, here, see what you can do with this.
Like, Your Honor, if you gave me a gun, I would shoot you.
I actually caught 2 seconds of somebody on Fox News or one of those guys, and it was one of those guys that is a former big time cop or whatever, and takes the NRA's side on every single issue, and
they want to give blind people guns.
Yeah, exactly, and and they come to him, and even he was just sort of well, that's ridiculous. You don't give an automatic weapon to a 9-year-old. And he's like, I can't believe that we have to legislate these kind of things. And it's well, yeah, that's exactly our point. It's you just made the point that everybody's been making you for years. Of course we would rather not have to legislate stuff, but there are dumb people. I'm
glad that he actually manned up and took that opinion of it, because a lot of these gun nuts they're so afraid of the slippery slope, or it's if we can't give 9-year-old little girls Uzis, well then what's next? You're gonna come and take away my guns?
The only thing that can stop a 9-year-old with an Uzi is another 9-year-old with an Uzi.
So I'm glad at least they're you know what, this one's a little too ridiculous.
Great, but yeah, that's luckily, I feel like the tide of horrible news and events is at least slowed down a little bit. Unless, of course, you live in Napa and they had a big earthquake last
Oh yeah, we had an earthquake.
Which was sort of at this point, even getting woken up by an earthquake. At this point, it's more oh really? Come on! It's not even oh my God, we're all gonna die in an earthquake. It's Jesus! Can this month get any worse?
Yeah. This summer has just been so shit. This is how bad this summer is.
Right.
One of the highlights of my summer was watching soccer. Okay? That's how fucking bad this summer was.
And it's that's by a long shot too. That's the only good thing that happened.
Yeah, that and the Simpsons marathon. Okay, so watching soccer and watching a show that's 22 years old. That's the highlights of my summer. Thanks a lot. Can't wait for fall.
The Simpsons marathon, it's now getting into what is it, the 27th or 28th. We're now into the sort of second half of the Simpsons marathon, where they're in season 13 or 14, and the quality level, while still good at that point. I mean, it's hard to shit on the Simpsons and say they got bad, but
it's definitely not the early Simpsons, but I gotta admit, I love having the marathon on because it's late at night. I'll turn it on and just be and especially even now because there are a lot of they're in the sort of years that I kind of jumped ship on the Simpsons, but it's still watchable.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. So there's some episodes that I've never seen before that are on right now, and I'm oh, this is great. I was actually watching the marathon when the earthquake hit. Was it 2 in the morning?
Yeah, 2 or 3 in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just people are asking me what did it feel like? And it's basically it was kind of annoying because I'm trying to watch The Simpsons.
It's you're gonna kill me. Get it over with.
I have to admit that
I don't have time for your rocking around shit.
Yeah, my television set was sort of rocking back and forth, and I'm oh, this shit.
This shit.
It actually was. It lasted a lot longer than I thought.
Yeah.
It's about 20 seconds.
It was weird, because a lot of people were saying that when you're close to Napa, and then even in San Francisco, supposedly it was a lot more sort of jolts, and the way we felt it was just totally sort of rolling.
It was rolling,
yeah.
For me too.
And it was, it did go on for a little while, but it never felt like holy shit, this is a big one. It was just kind of hey, knock it off.
Well, yeah, exactly. For me, it was like, hey, knock it off.
Hey,
And actually, I was waiting for the big jolt.
Yeah,
but then somebody told me that in like earthquakes, like the big jolt comes first.
Right.
And then it just kind of rolls. If the big jolt's really gonna hit you, so you have like really no time to get ready for that. But
So
like,
what's
yeah,
the point?
it's just sort of rolling, and it's like for 15 seconds into it, I'm like, is this gonna get worse, or is this gonna stop?
Right.
And so it finally like stopped, and I was like, ooh, what was that again?
Like, did they do anything to retrofit your building at all, or is that thing going down like a house of cards?
Although somebody sent me a City of San Francisco webpage where you can go on there and look under your zip code and then look under like your address and see if the city has deemed your building as like a foundation risk for earthquakes.
Oh, really?
And guess who is not a foundation risk? This guy. But like half a block down.
It's like the number one thing on your resume. The building I live in is not a foundational risk.
Well, do you have any special skills so I can live through an earthquake?
That's right.
That's pretty special for me.
You might want to think about that. I mean, chances are the big one's coming at some point.
But like 3 doors down from me, that all the buildings are like foundation risks.
Oh, that's cool. So you just get to go on your rooftop and watch like the whole neighborhood burn down.
What did you do during the earthquake? Did you run underneath a door jam,
or like there wasn't nearly enough? Well, there wasn't like time enough, or like it wasn't like bad enough, like to where I felt like that. And my wife was saying the same thing. She was like, "That's like how you sort of mark like an earthquake that's like notable versus one that's not really, or to you is like whether you run into a doorway."
I judge it by whether I have soiled underpants or not.
I judge it like the Louis C.K. method of like recording how much time it takes for you to beat off again. And for him, it was between building 1 and 2.
I did have that moment where I looked out the window after the earthquake, and I realized that one of my new downstairs neighbors had run out of the building and into the street. I was like, look at that fucking idiot. Look at that
Yell
guy.
out the window, you look like a jackass.
Look at you, scared for your life. And there's
look at the pussy in the street, everybody.
And that guy like lives with like 3 other people. I'm sure he was like, he probably pushed one of his like roommates down and like, out of my way, I have so much to live for.
It's like holding all of their wallets and purses. Like, I hope they all burn to death.
How come you're carrying your CDs and you left your pet inside?
Christ. Well, yeah, we should take a break and
yeah, we have like a special guest on.
We do.
We didn't even talk about the bar.
Mm-hmm.
This is the BoardRoom.
I know. I was gonna say, like, we can talk about the bar and because I just remembered that I've been here before, and it was for like a European Champions League Cup or whatever
classy.
like that, like a couple of years ago, like with a buddy of mine. But so that's a good story we can look forward to.
This is actually the site of one of my worst like comedy sets ever.
Oh, sweet.
Because they Caitlin Gill was running a comedy night out of here, and it was like one. It's like the bar's like relatively like one room and small.
Yeah. Where did you put the stage?
Right where we're sitting.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So we're in the corner, but it was like one of those things where some people are just here, and then suddenly there's a comedy show. And those people who were here before that were like, well, we were here to drink away our problems, not listen to somebody work through new material. So like nobody was paying attention.
Right.
And like people were
actively not paying attention.
Actively, people were like sitting close to the microphone and were talking, and like nobody's like paying attention. And it was so much so that, I mean, I just went up there. I tell all the comics this, when something like that happens, just work on your timing. Don't worry. Don't like pause for applause breaks or anything like that. Just like work on your timing, remembering your jokes, and just get the fuck off stage before like somebody starts throwing something. So that's what I did. Just totally ate it.
And I wonder if it'd be nice if there was a way that if the guy that runs the bar or something like that had a screen or something like that he could just raise up between the people that don't want to see it, which would be like mostly soundproof. So
Well, I mean, it was bad for me because I did really poorly, but like the whole show was bad. Like there was a point where Chris Garcia, who's a very funny comic, was telling his jokes, and he realized nobody's like listening to him, and so he just like takes the microphone and goes to the bar and sits at the bar and starts talking about what everybody's watching on TV, which is a great move.
Right. Well, why not?
That's a veteran move. All right, so let's take a break, and then we'll bring in our special guest.
Yes, indeed.
All right, this is SFBarkast at the BoardRoom.
1, 2, 3.
All right, and we are back at the BoardRoom.
The BoardRoom.
The BoardRoom. We're gonna have to do a little research on this place because
Yeah.
we were like, we want to go somewhere in North Beach, and the first place we went was like super crowded with people yelling at each other.
The North Star Cafe. Boo to the North Star Cafe for being crowded.
Well, let's not poo-poo it just yet.
That's funny because I mean our recurring segment, the bad Yelp reviews.
Yes.
Some of the most of the bad.
Yes.
Yes. Most of the bad Yelp reviews for the North Star Cafe were because of its crowd, and they said that it was too crowded, and then so we went there to try to do it, and it's too crowded.
Exactly.
So,
Well, as advertised.
Exactly.
I'll say that
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what? Like 99% of the reviews for that place were positive, and then the people who didn't like it were like, some guy spilled beer on me. It's like, well, that's not that place's fault.
That's what we say this all the time, but that's why I love bad Yelp reviews,
Right.
because everything's just so personal. Where it's like I went to a bar and there were a lot of people there.
It's like, I don't usually like dive bars, and I didn't like this one. It's like, oh, okay.
Parking was hard, 1 star. It's
I'm
like
allergic to the color yellow, and it's the color of that building. Not going
right,
there.
Before we go any further, like trashing stuff, we want to invite on our special guest, Steve Henry, who is a avid listener of SF Barkast.
Wow.
So people have challenged us and said, I bet you can't get one listener to come on your show. And
Well, first they challenged us
pay up.
saying, I bet you can't get one listener.
Right.
And then they said, I bet you can't. But you can't produce that person.
And then they said, on your show. So, Steve, welcome to the Barcast.
Thank you very much.
And
Hello,
Steve,
hello.
thank you for. Steve, you live in New Jersey,
I do.
so the Barcast really reaches out to a lot of people.
But before that, you lived in San Francisco for quite some years.
Nope,
did.
nope.
Oh,
he's
no?
he's
That's
just
right.
like I've never met Steve before. He's a pure listener. He's
a
actually
pure
super excited to meet his
Jersey.
heroes.
He has no other reason to listen to the show other than how entertaining it is.
No, Steve used to live in San Francisco, and he's an old friend of ours, and we're very happy to have him on the show.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
And you live in New Jersey now,
I do. I live at the Jersey Shore.
the Jersey Shore.
The shore. Shore. What exit?
Now, which so the what's the name of the town? They filmed the reality show in? Is that
Seaside.
Seaside? Okay.
Yeah.
So where are you in relation to Seaside?
So I'm about 25 minutes north of there.
Okay.
And it's funny. I grew up just a slight bit north of that, where I live now, and Seaside has always been, this cheesy destination
Yeah.
that was portrayed on that show. Well, not that bad, but
Right.
it was always in that vein. It was always in that direction, and I think even to this day, I think I've been there maybe 6 times.
Has it gotten like better or worse or stayed the same pretty much or
Well, I'd have to. I guess it's gotten worse.
probably more posers that found out about
but
it
then
in the show?
they got slammed pretty hard by. They got a double hit. They got hit hard by Sandy 2 years ago.
Right.
And then a year later, related to Sandy storm damage, they had a major fire on the boardwalk.
Oh my God.
And half the boardwalk went up in flames.
Holy shit.
Wait a minute. So a year after Sandy,
Yeah.
then the fire
It
started.
was just
Yeah, because
smoldering the whole time.
some of the electrical equipment
Oh,
goes
okay.
under the boardwalk. So it had been if the waves came up and hit, so all this saltwater damaged electrical equipment, they didn't bother to
They're like, yeah, it'll be fine.
address any of that.
Yeah. What about all the wiring underneath the boardwalk? Forget about it.
Don't worry about it.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Just keep making that cotton candy.
a couple of years ago, I was in New Jersey, and I hung out with you. And when I was I was on my motorcycle trip, and when I was leaving, you said, "Hey, if you want to know where all the Jersey Shore people are and hang out, you gave me directions to where all that stuff happens."
I want to know where all those losers are.
Right. And I think right after that, I was like, "All right, Steve, I'll see you later." And I was like, "Well, I'm not doing that."
Well, you didn't go straight and get a "Let's Get Awesome" T-shirt or something like
Yeah,
that?
exactly. It's like I'm not going to go to what do they call it? the
wife beater?
tanning.
Oh,
the
tan grocery laundry or whatever.
Jim,
gym
Tan
Come on,
grocery, watch football.
GTL.
GTL.
We
we go.
live the GTL life. Let me tell you.
What's the L for? The laundry?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's right. Jim
With,
Tan Laundry.
So, I mean, like, were you affected badly by Sandy as well? Or like,
No, personally, I was not. My family was fine.
Or like, personally, I don't really care.
but as long as I'm okay, then.
we live in a
Gives a
car,
fuck.
so we just drove away from it.
But no, my town was pretty heavily impacted. There's we're kind of surrounded by water, so people who were closer to the water, people like 2 blocks away from me had water in their garage, maybe.
Right.
And then you go another block closer to the water, and got up to the first floor. But this one, it was all about like how many feet you were above sea level.
Right.
So
Yeah, and it's like even if it's like a couple feet more, you're like, well, that's a lot. That's
So, like,
different.
like, guys with stilts are like, you can all go fuck yourselves. You thought I looked stupid.
Exactly. You all made fun of me at the stilt convention.
well, there's all you hear now 2 years later, like, you hear stories about people who built houses, back before anybody was thinking about before people were thinking about it as much as they are now.
Right.
And they built their house, 5 feet higher than their neighbors, and everybody was like, "What's this guy doing? What is up with this?"
Get a load of him over there.
Yeah, and now he's
Get a load of Mr. High Deck.
And the guy with the high house is like, I just want to let you know, we called your house Sodom and Gomorrah because of what's going to happen to it. When I was on the Gulf Coast on my motorcycle trip, I saw all of these like houses on stilts, and I was like, "What? Does that really fucking work?" And a friend of mine who lives in New Orleans goes, "Oh, are you kidding me? That works. When a hurricane comes through, it works. It saves the house."
Wow.
So I'm just like,
no doubt.
whatever.
It's a huge business right now.
Oh, just repairing the
raising
entire
houses,
coast. Shit.
or building new foundations, quote unquote, for houses
Right.
that are higher up. It's
Do you think if there was like a contractor when like he was looking at all the devastation on the coast, he was like, "Yeah, cha-ching."
He just sees a bunch of like money floating in the water.
no question about it.
I also want to I kind of semi have to apologize to Steve. Steve and I went to see a baseball game today, but before
Yeah, you should apologize.
He
for
told
that.
me he was coming out, and I wanted to apologize to him about we had talked about him coming out, and so then just a week ago, he was like, "Yeah, man, so I'm gonna be there on Wednesday." And I was
like, "What now?"
I was like, "Hey, man, you're welcome to stay at my place if you want." And little did I realized afterwards that he had already planned. I already told him that he was staying at my place. I was just probably drunk at the time and like, it'll be fun if you stay at my place. By the way, I shouldn't have even told the story like that. I should have said that Steve Henry is the winner of the SFBarkast sweepstakes. And, he got to not only be on the show,
Right.
but he also gets to stay with one of the hosts.
It's the host of your choice.
He gets to stay with me for 4 days. Second place, you get to stay with me 5 days.
Exactly. Third place, new roommate.
I'm living the dream.
Living the dream in the mission.
That's
And-
it.
But okay, how about this, Steve? Have you ever been to this bar before? The
I have
BoardRoom?
not. I have not been to the boardroom. No, but I like it.
It's a comfortable little spot.
Yeah, I have to
will
say.
It is. I mean, especially considering the bar we just came from, there was wall-to-wall people
Yeah.
and just screaming at each other.
There was, to be fair, I guess that place
fair,
is a big.
To be fair, they suck.
Well, yeah, I mean that's fair. They were playing, I think South Carolina versus Texas A&M, and I think that they're a big LSU bar, so they're probably a big just SEC bar in general.
Yeah,
And,
I mean,
but I guess that's why it was so packed out.
and it's one of the things I love about San Francisco is these bars are they have certain affiliations, and because San Francisco is has so many transplants from elsewhere. You
Yeah,
looked
yeah.
up that the North Star bar
North Star, yeah.
is a Buffalo Bills bar.
Yeah,
how
that's
unlucky
crazy.
for them.
They've
don't-
been voted second best bar 50 years in a row, I think.
I don't know how that's come to be. I mean, I haven't lived here in a while, but the guy who owns it is actually the guy who owns, or at least used to own, Shanghai Kelly's.
Oh, okay.
But isn't Shanghai
And
Kelly's
That's
a Philly bar?
right?
It is, well, the guy who owns the North Star, and I'm pretty sure he owns that place now, he's from outside of Philly.
Okay.
So he's from, he's from right outside of Philly, in Pennsylvania,
King
like
of
on
Prussia?
the main line. Yeah, like around there. Yeah, honestly, like
just took a stab at it.
right near
King
Villanova.
of pizza.
King of Pizza.
Like right
It has
near
to
Villanova.
exist, right?
And
I mean, you can't like own a pizza company in King of Prussia and not call it King of Pizza.
when
Pizza royalty.
when my older brother moved out to San Francisco back in the old days, back in like '89, they ended up at Shanghai Kelly somehow, and this guy was like, hey, come on in, whatever. So they got to know him a little bit. I got to know him a little bit back in the '90s, and I think he owns both bars, but I know he owns the North Star. But I don't know how it's a Buffalo Bills bar or an LSU bar or any of that stuff.
Like I wonder
But
if it's just like sort of a
pretty
like
cool place,
customer, like one of their favorite customer brings it in or something like that. Because there's not really a good reason for the Kilowatt to be a big Jets bar, is there? Like
Well, the owner is a Jets fan, but the great thing about the Kilowatt, and we've said this before, that it's like the United Nations of football,
Right.
where it's like there's every little pocket.
but it's like
of
every
fans
other
there.
sport, they're pretty heavy Detroit.
They're
And
big
then, like,
Detroit Red Wings bar.
Yeah.
I remember we were trying to watch basketball there once, and there was a Red Wings game on, and it was like one of the playoff games for basketball.
yeah.
So there's a bunch of people on the other side of the bar getting really into it, and there's like a Red Wings game going on, and this guy just like looks over to us and goes, "You guys should be watching a real fucking game over here." And he points to the hockey game, and I was like, "Go back to Norway."
Pick up your teeth off the ice and get the fuck out.
I wonder, like, if you own a bar, and like, do you have veto power over whether it gets to be a certain team designation, or some
Seems
guys
like
like,
you
you know
should,
what,
yeah,
I'm gonna work really hard. This is gonna be a Jacksonville Jaguars bar.
No, it's not.
Well,
Fuck
I
you
think-
are.
But I think to some extent, you do have veto power, but it's going to come down to, is this guy going to bring in the customers? Because
Yeah, exactly.
if they're going to come in and drink
Like-
all day,
He's
he's going to be your best friend.
I'm gonna bring all my Jaguar friend in here.
He's like, I'm going to bring every Jaguar fan in the world here. Then
know,
that's
some-
2 or 3 people at least.
Some guy who's like a regular customer who drinks like a fish 6 days a week,
Right.
and he says, I'm the president of my alumni club. I'm going to bring in 50 people.
Like,
And
screw you, I'm making a
the only
Columbus
the only
Blue Jackets
question is,
bar.
do they all drink like you?
Like-
Because
right.
if they do,
Oh yeah, that's always. I mean, it all comes down to that, because I remember the open mic that I used to run at Annie's Social Club. Like, the bartender once told me, like, "Hey, you know what? We love you guys. You guys are great, but like, we don't make any money when you guys are here." I was like, "Well, they're all like, comics starting out. Like, they're not rich, And he's like, "But I thought, like, comedians would be drinking harder." I'm like, "No."
Well, comedians
excuse-
do drink hard, once you give them drinks. It's like,
Yeah.
If you offer the comedians free drinks, they will drink a lot.
out in the alley before they come in,
Well, they're all
They're
smoking
drinking
pot
a
out
lot.
back. When we were like looking for a venue to do that open mic, there was this one venue. I think it was called. It wasn't the Comet Room, but it was like right down by like 850 Bryant.
Okay.
And the guy like really, really wanted us to do this comedy night at his bar, and we were like, yeah, the guy, when somebody like really wants you, you can tell, like, oh, there's a lot of enthusiasm here. Like, oh, you really like it. And he's like, okay, there's only just one thing. We have a lot of cops that hang out at this bar. And we're like, pass. I mean, it's like, I'm sorry, like, that's just not going to fly.
It's like he was turned around for half a second while he was saying, it's like, we have a lot of cops here. And he turns around and there's just like a smoke where you guys were. What?
As we're sitting here in the boardroom, the final preseason football game is coming on between the Santa Clara 49ers
Right.
and the Houston Texans. And oh my God, is there any bigger dick tease in the world than preseason football?
I thought you were going to say then a 49ers-Texans game, like what a rivalry.
Well, it's like none of the good players are going to play because it's the fourth game of the preseason, and everybody's just like, we just want to make sure nobody gets hurt.
Colin Kaepernick's too busy like greasing his abs. Yeah. Got to get him in game shape for a week and a half from now.
Somebody was telling me that actually the fourth quarter of like all the preseason football games are great because it's a bunch of people who like need to impress people to make the team. So either they're going to be a professional football player or they're going to be checking IDs in front of bars.
They're wearing their Home Depot uniform under the football uniform, just in case.
So we got that to look forward to.
Precisely.
You want to take a break?
Sure.
Why don't we take a break, and we'll come back, and we'll talk more about the bar this time.
Yeah. And with Steve Henry, our special guest.
Steve Henry, the winner of the 2014 SF Barkast. Win a dream date with SF Barkast.
And therefore, winner at life.
All right, this is SF Barkast. We are back at the board room with Steve Henry.
We're sitting at the largest table in the boardroom, having a meeting.
Steve Henry is getting, like, he gets to see behind the curtain.
I'm getting to see how the sausage is made.
Didn't like Kevin Monroe say something like that?
Yeah, well, no, I remember Kevin Monroe when he was on saying that he was surprised that like there wasn't like a big mixing board, like like we're cutting like Pink Floyd tracks in here.
I feel like if we're doing two things, we're raising awareness about bars in San Francisco and disappointing guests. Because we have, like, everyone, like, there's a long list of people who want to come on the Barcast. And they come in and they're like, oh, really, this is it?
Well, we should, I mean, they must, like, sell all of that, like, crap they used in, like, 70s, like, sci-fi TV series and stuff like that. That's just, like, boards of blinking lights and buttons. And we could put, like, all that behind us. Like, yeah.
Get some of that stuff on eBay.
Exactly. It's like, it'll look like they're coming in NORAD to record our like, podcast.
Why do you guys need a radar dish to, like, record a podcast?
Why?
You need somebody in the background going, like, counting down with their hands, 5, 4,
Yeah, exactly.
and then mouthing the rest, 3, 2, 1.
That's the important part.
It's hard to do that on an audio podcast,
you have to
but
go
you
to
get the
school for
idea.
it.
So, Steve, you used to live in San Francisco.
I did.
And how long have you been gone for?
Well, I
was just say, like, you and I, we were friends, like, when you were living in San Francisco, and you went off and you started a big, beautiful family. And
Seems like you're assessing blame here. It's like, yeah, we were friends, then you left, then you fucking
then,
bailed.
then you left me for your family.
You blew it.
You left me holding the goddamn bag here in San Francisco.
Somebody, like, do you say they start a family or do you say they make a family? Because really, you're making them.
Yeah, whether you look at it as a business or a commodity, I suppose. Like, yeah.
No.
You produced a family.
We're processing.
So how are you adjusting to life as a dad?
Well, all right. So I moved back east in 1999, back before the turn of the century, and I got married in 2001.
Right.
And then had 4 kids.
We both attended that wedding in Seagirt, New Jersey.
That's right. Yeah, you guys were there. Yeah.
Yep. Were we? We were invited, right? We didn't just crash it.
We can go with that. We can go with that version. That's fine.
If memory serves me correctly, we were wearing top hats and we're perfect gentlemen the entire time.
We were. I want to go to a wedding. Like, I want to tell someone that it's going to be a costume wedding, and then have them show up like dressed like an orc.
I think it's going to be like a Great Gatsby wedding or something. You show up with like a top hat and like $5,000 worth of clothes.
Yes, we went to your wedding, and so how is like life as a family man?
It's great. I think, and this is based on conversations I've heard you guys have on previous barcasts.
I think you're the first person we've ever had on who has kids. Sorry, Mike.
No.
I said that when NATO.
I don't even think I'm the second. That's right.
I said that when NATO was on, and Mike Spiegelman went crazy on me.
Right. So
Spiegelman's kid doesn't really count though.
But I think I jump into the lead with 4 offspring.
Wow.
So if anyone's keeping score
if I'm
at
not
home,
mistaken, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think
are 2 of them twins?
They are. Yes.
Okay, so your first twins as well. Oh, or no, wait, NATO Green has twins.
Get in line, Henry.
God damn it, we're gonna have to get a guest with triplets, and they're like Siamese twins at this point.
Although,
dare you?
This is Mr. Henry. In fact, Mr. Henry has 4 kids.
That's it.
Wow.
It's
So that's got to be just a nonstop war, right?
It's actually the youngest are 7 now, so we're sort of out of the woods of the baby stuff.
Okay.
So there was definitely a few years there that I can't really tell you that much about, other than stuff you don't want to hear about.
Right.
If you want to know about movies that came out like in 07, let's say.
Okay.
I would not be the one to ask.
If I want to ask about like soiled diapers,
Yes.
you would be the one.
Yes.
You would be the authority.
Hit me up.
Like at this point, if I so now you said the youngest is 7, and how old is the oldest?
11.
11. Oh my
Yeah.
God, so 11 to 7. So like,
So real quick. Boom,
feel
boom,
like-
boom.
wow.
I feel like you're like this is the sweet spot right now for you, because like when my brother and sister had kids and they were like infants and they were like, you got to come over and see the baby and hold the baby. I'm like, fuck that, and then like as
Jeff,
soon,
you forgot to hang up the phone.
oh
I can still hear
sorry,
you.
oh wait, did I say that with my mouth? But as soon as like they're like old enough to run around, I can throw the football at them. And like we can like run around, like ride bikes and stuff. I love it. It's
Right.
great.
Before they become obnoxious teenagers.
True.
Right?
So, yeah, you're on the cusp of that right now.
Yeah, that's so we. You're exactly right. I think we're in the sweet
got
spot.
that to look forward
we're
to.
Heading, absolutely. We're heading right into the middle school stuff.
Although they're the prime age to take an Uzi and gun down their instructor, as I found out.
Yeah, you know what?
But you
They
just
are.
have to try to avoid that.
They are.
If
I
you-
have a 9-year-old daughter. Believe me.
I don't have a whole lot of experience with children, but if I can give you some advice, don't give them an Uzi.
I'm gonna take that advice. That's good.
Or at least go
That's good.
semi-automatic. Like, don't go fully automatic. Like, come on,
Hey.
people. We shouldn't have to tell you.
One bullet at a time.
Exactly.
So yeah, you're looking forward to like those teenage years. Were you? Let me just ask you this first. Were you a problem teenager when you were a kid? Did you fight a lot with your parents?
I would say
And
sort
just
of.
know
in-
that your kids are going to listen to this.
I would. Say, they are not. I would say sort of in the middle. Like
call kids.
I was not a total hellraiser, but see, I was the youngest of 5, so a lot of stuff that I did, like my parents weren't really paying attention because they kind of been there and done that. They'd had enough. As long as I didn't have their car with me, they weren't really that concerned. I mean, there was a few hiccups along the way, but
I do, like, we were talking about this earlier about how, like, things are totally different from when we were kids. Like, not to sound like old men, but, like, yeah, like, when I was, like, a teenager and I was, like, asked to borrow the car, they're like, oh, where are you going to go? I'm like, out. When are you going to be back? Later. And then, like, now, like, kids have, like,
by
cell
the way,
phones.
can I have $10?
Yeah.
When do you come back? When I sober up.
Now kids have, like, cell phones and you, like, microchip them. And
Well, the cell phone alone, you can track them with that.
yeah.
Right.
People do, and
Yeah, but what if they watch Breaking Bad and they realize they have to take the battery out?
A burner phone.
I need to get a burner phone for my dad.
the only it's almost the only question is, are you going to be the kind of parent that tracks your kid's cell phone with their knowledge or without it?
Good point. Well, how far? Like, how long can you get to? You can get to Manhattan from where you are, like by public transportation. Pretty easy.
Yeah, you can take a train. It's like 2 hours.
Oh, okay. So not like super fast, but like what age would you be comfortable with them going into like Manhattan by themselves?
Well,
Or are they already at that age?
after they've gone to no, I think that comes down. In all seriousness, like that comes down to like if we prep them.
Right.
By
Uzi training?
By getting Uzi training, but if we take them into the city enough,
Right.
I can get comfortable with a much younger age. 16
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure. At least if there's a specific thing. Okay, I want to go to Penn Station, New York, and then go to this place.
Yeah.
And then, I'll be with my friend who, blah, blah,
Lives at the bus
under,
station.
under certain circumstances. But part of it is if I do my job, my wife and I do our job, if you live near a city or in a city, got to get your kids exposed to this stuff. I think
Right,
that's,
exactly. And also,
know,
like, you're so close to Manhattan.
Yeah.
That, I mean, like, okay, Manhattan is definitely not like when we were kids and it was like, just like sleaze everywhere. The good days. But like,
Back when it meant something to walk down Times Square.
if they want to go to like, the Museum of Natural History and hang out with Neil deGrasse Tyson, like, fine, you let them. Okay.
Hang out next to a bunch of like empty buildings because the billionaires that own them only live in them 2 months or 2 weeks a year. Or?
Yeah, like if they want to go to like Paterson, New Jersey, though, you're like, well, hold on, seriously.
Right.
It's like, why do you want to go to Paterson? To see the museums.
Right.
What?
We're going to Hoboken. See how Frank Sinatra lived.
But yeah, I feel like that is like, it's like when, like Steve and I were talking about this earlier, that like my niece and nephew, I feel like they don't have that sort of like adventure element to them.
Right.
Like, they like my brother like still takes them to Disney World every year and they love it. And they're in like,
in
and
their
they're in,
30s
like, they're like, one of them's in high school, one of them's in 8th grade. And I'm just like, you know what? Like when I was like that age, I was like, I would like nothing more than to like get on a bus and go to Boston and just hang out in Boston, like walk around the combat zone. I'd just be like, go to Stairway to Heaven.
I mean, I wonder if a lot of that is due to the amount like that kids have access to as far as information. Like one of the cool things about like sort of going downtown if you're like a youngish kid or whatever, was just seeing all kinds of shit that you'd never seen before and be like, oh my god, like local art and this and that and stuff like that. And like now you can see so much of that stuff online that like maybe there's not like the draw.
Yeah, but like, isn't there like an adventure like element to it where it's like, I'm
totally.
out there
I
doing
mean, that's
this.
what they should do.
I feel like the first time you get this is when you get a bicycle as a kid. And you're like, holy shit, this is an element of like independence.
I guess
and then
it
you
probably
learn,
depends on how much you've been scared too. Like where you're just if you've just ingested nothing but like the city will shoot you in the face as soon as you get there. Like,
Right.
Yeah,
That's,
if the parents have been telling them,
That's
know what,
the thing.
the city's going to eat you up.
in order for let's take the age of 16 or 15 or somewhere in there.
Yeah.
In order for that kid to be prepared to hop on the train and go to the city, they have to get on their bikes when they're 11 and go out and do their own thing, like we all did when we were kids. We were younger than 11. We were freaking 7, whatever. And we were out. Boom. I'll see you at dinner. They have to be out there doing that stuff. They have to be doing other smaller things. And then, absolutely, when they're 15 or 16, I trust my kids to do that stuff when they're at the right age. But they need to have some experience doing stuff on their own. Otherwise, it ain't gonna work.
And you learn. I mean, and also like if you
see, like it ain't gonna work. Like you just have to get new kids. This ain't gonna work. Like
this just ain't gonna work.
You're faulty.
Where's your sense of adventure? Here's a copy of like Hunter S. Thompson.
We'll send you back to the factory. See if we can get another one.
It's like, but like I mean, I don't know. I feel like maybe we're just a little bit more adventurous, but maybe it is the internet. Maybe it's like the screens. Like you mentioned like something about like getting your kids like nose out of their screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like I guess that is kind of because like Andrew, you're right. There's like a lot of stuff that you can learn online, right?
Yeah.
But like your nose is in a fucking iPad.
Right. Oh, totally. Yeah. Like you shouldn't. I mean, like, you should want to do that, but like I think some kids might just get complacent because they're like, I already know everything about art from Etsy or something like that. It's like, all right.
No, and it's there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, I think all you can do is try to push them in the right direction of like, they're not going to.
Don't you want to learn 3-card money?
The hard way.
Exactly.
Come on.
Follow the lady.
Who didn't?
Do it.
Who didn't? I mean, seriously, like that's a life lesson.
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's like,
And that's
But you're gonna feel like you may have a little bit more experience than like your kids have had. So therefore, like if they try to pull some shit on you, you're like, hey, I invented that move. Okay, like.
Like,
don't pull any of this
wait,
crap
let me
on
guess. Your car broke down, Upper East Side. You just need a tow. Like,
Oh, so you
somehow you made it all the way to the village without any money, but now you need $20 from me.
you're like talking to like your 10-year-old son, and you're like, oh, so you're gonna stay at your friend's house all night, right? Let me tell you something. LSD can be really a real horrible thing.
So what's Dad talking about?
I mean, know your PCP dealer. I'm going to a sleepover. I love having this conversation because I love the fact that Steve has had kids and I haven't had kids. I think the world wins in this whole equation.
That's right. Like, it all balances out. Like,
We'll see.
There might be 4 responsible kids, in the world, but no thanks to either of us.
We'll see.
That's true.
The jury's out, gentlemen. We'll see.
You want to take a break?
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break and we'll come back and
Wrap it up. Give our opinions.
I feel like my way of like signing off every time we're going into a break is that we'll come back and we'll talk about the bar. And I know, like we just met the guys who like work here at the boardroom, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's great. Like it sounds like a great podcast." And so now they're like, "Oh yeah, you should listen to it." And they listen to it. They're like, "Those assholes haven't said like fucking word one about the goddamn bar."
They're just talking to that guy about his kids. Fuck this.
Dude, if I wanted to hear about that guy's kids, I would have asked him about his kids. Well, don't worry, boardroom. We're coming back and we're going to talk about the bar.
Yeah, we'll give you your big sloppy blowjob.
It's all about the boardroom.
All right, this is SFBarkast. We'll be back. All right, and we are back at the boardroom.
The boardroom.
You know
Very
what?
serious.
Well, that's the thing. Where initially, when you walk in here, you're like, oh, the boardroom. That's kind of a weird name for a bar because, like nobody thinks of like a boardroom meeting as being fun, right? And then you walk in and you see that there's a very large surfboard decoration. So it's a surf reference.
What's strange about that is that like the color scheme in here isn't very surfy, but like like I usually associate more like sort of I don't know, fluorescent colors and stuff like that with surfing. Right?
Andrew's like, if I want to have a big like flowery parasol in my drink.
I want there to be a big fake wave on one side of the place where you can stand in it and have your picture taken.
Toes Tavern.
Wait, are you telling me when you walked up to the bar, didn't the bartender greet you with
Mahalo?
Dude?
Oh, maybe he did.
That's what I got.
I just figured he was
that?
trying to sell me drugs.
Dude.
Yeah, actually, you know what? When you look around at the photos and the frame photos that are in the bar, it doesn't really scream. Aside from the surfboard that's hanging from the ceiling, it doesn't really scream of surf decor.
Yeah.
There's a lot more like local, San Francisco sports teams, like a lot of like Niner stuff.
Yeah.
For some bizarre reason, there's an Oregon Ducks mirror over there that somebody probably won at a state fair. Because nobody can be actually a fan of the Oregon Ducks, right?
It was either that or the Let It Be album cover mirror.
But what do you think of this bar, Steve?
I like it. I like the $4 pints.
That's what I was gonna say. Like like you can't beat the happy hour prices for and they are definitely not fake pints. They're not bullshit pints.
They look to be decent sized pints.
Yeah. Legit.
So Steve and I went to the San Francisco Giants baseball game this afternoon.
How many mortgages did you have to take out to buy a beer there?
So what do you think the over under would be on 2 pints of?
So these
beer?
were they actual pints or like is it like a ballpark
I think they were like 12 ounce.
Okay. All
They
right.
might have been 14.
Okay.
It might have been 14, right?
And a good quality beer like Miller Lite or something like that, or
We Sierra Nevada.
oh, okay, that's halfway decent.
So what do you think that came out at?
$28.
Wow, things are worse in your mind than they really are, but they are still pretty bad. It was for 2 beers, $21.50.
Wow. That's,
at the wonderful AT&T.
Did you get any food or anything like that? Like
We had some garlic fries.
Okay.
I mean, like the going to Giants games is always fun.
Right.
The park is beautiful. and especially if you go to a day game, it's just like it's nice to sit in the stands.
I imagine that the food there is maybe slightly better than or at least like not as obviously taken out of dumpsters as the Oakland Athletics Coliseum.
Here's the thing: everything about like going to a Giants game is better than going to the Coliseum. Except I love the Coliseum. I love going to A's games. I hate the Coliseum. If tomorrow they decide we're gonna bulldoze the Coliseum down, I'll be the first one
pushing the bulldozer from behind.
Right, yeah, I'll be pushing the bulldozer, or I'll be controlling the wrecking ball, because that place is a fucking dump. But I just love A's games, and I know it's like a horrible thing to say right after we saw the SF Giants play in their beautiful park, but there's something like so much more precious about going to Giants games.
Right.
But I love San Francisco. I love living here when I did. I'm a New York Yankee fan at heart, but I like the Giants.
How dare you?
I like
This interview is over.
I like the Niners. I don't want to say bad things, but I think the San Francisco teams have always been that way. Back at the Niners at Candlestick, it was always that experience was always. Definitely use the word precious, more precious than most NFL experiences.
Except for recent years. In recent years, it suddenly became like much more common for people to be fighting in the crowd at a Niners game than at a Raiders game.
But wouldn't they spill their Chardonnay?
Of course. You get it in your eye.
Absolutely. Like when we were kids, when Joe Montana was winning Super Bowls, you would see these profiles of Niner fans on CBS, and they're like, oh, people drinking red wine in the parking lot, and an elegant meal for an elegant team.
Yeah.
And fast forward to 2 years ago, and people are stabbing each other in the parking lot because Candlestick was a fucking dump.
Right.
And now they're down in Santa Clara, which is so much closer to San Jose, and you know what I mean when I say San Jose, classy.
I can't believe there's no tailgating there.
They don't allow tailgating.
This fun-free zone now.
Yeah.
It's people are going to be expected to just shuffle in, stare at their phone for an hour, and leave.
Yeah, that whole thing. I don't know.
All I'm saying is, if you go to a Niner game in the next 10 years, you're an idiot.
No offense.
But I do love the Giants ballpark. The food there.
AT&T Park.
If you're going to a baseball game and you're hungry, you cannot do better. I really don't think you can do better.
Yeah.
The Phillies have a great ballpark with very good food, but it is not as good as this.
You know what? And I agree that AT&T Park is one of my favorite ballparks in all of Major League Baseball. If I have any criticism of it at all, it's that it's something that you can't get around. It's in every ballpark. There's so much advertising everywhere.
Right.
It's you can't do anything. It's it's the Levi's splash zone. Right. The Coca-Cola
the only thing I would
Tripler's
change.
Alley.
The only thing I would change if I could, I think, would be to have the power to turn away anybody I wanted at the gate. And you get 10% in there. Just everybody spreads out. It's nice.
That would change things quite a bit.
Well, then
I'd like to watch that unfold.
If Andrew got to turn away everybody he doesn't like, the ballpark would be empty.
Pretty much. There'd be one crowd of people that look sort of cool, in the corner.
All right, hey, you know what time it is?
What time is it?
It's time to stop complaining and start reading bad Yelp reviews.
Stop complaining. Read other people's complaints.
Exactly. It's time for you to stop complaining and let other people to start complaining.
All right. Well, hey.
All right, so this is what we do, Steve. It's our you know.
I know a little bit about this segment.
Steve, you know how the game is played, right?
I do.
I have to explain the rules to Steve.
Well, they're complicated rules. Of course, and if we're recording on the road in Canada, the whole thing's flip-flop.
Do you want to go first?
Yes, I will. Emily F. And these are reviews from Yelp that are in this case 2 stars or less, because there were a lot of positive reviews for this place. We found a few.
I'll wait until I hear what the review is to say what I think the F stands for.
First of all, let me say Emily F has a really shitty bob cut, and like so
It's a
whatever.
very shitty what?
Like a bob haircut.
Oh,
So
right.
get that taken care of, Emily. And so her review begins as follows. For the boardroom here in North Beach, this place is for turds.
This place is for turds.
I'm sorry, it
You know
had
what?
to be said.
She took a course in like writing essays, and they were like, you know what? Lead off with your strongest point.
Exactly.
And she
attention
said,
getter.
this place is for turds.
But then immediately apologized. Say, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
She apologizes for
Emily,
her potty mouth.
You should apologize. Let's watch the fucking mouth.
She goes on to say, the boardroom is dirty and not in a rustic dive bar way, which I'm not sure if I understand what that means. More like I just walked into someone's living room and they haven't picked up their shit off the floor in months way.
She sounds like the greatest roommate ever.
She does, doesn't she? Yeah, it's also like a living room in that all the bros and woman bros. Is that her attempt to not be sexist to say woman bros?
She didn't say she bros.
I guess you're right. All the bros and women bros at this bar seem to know each other, and they all have to grunt loudly at each other and yell across the room before taking a sip of their drink.
Oh, I wish she was here right now. So I could
She might have come
grunt
on
in her
like,
face.
She might have come on ape night. Maybe that's her mistake right there. And they literally were throwing their shit on the floor. That's what monkeys do.
Was Jack Hanna showing like showing animals to here?
So, and in closing, drinks are normal and not cheap. The food was practically inedible, and being here made me want to die. Wow, strong.
Well,
and then she says, "I'm not an asshole, I promise."
No, she doesn't say that.
She does. I'm not an asshole, I promise.
That actually sounds like something that you threw in at the end. But
No,
and
that also sounds like something an asshole would say.
Exactly. Well, that's like that Greg Giraldo joke where he says if anybody like prefaces what they're about to say, he's like, "Hey, you know, I'm not a racist."
Right.
He's like, "You get yourself ready for some racist shit because it's coming."
Stay tuned for
So like, if someone
racism.
says, "I swear to God, I'm not an asshole," like, you just tipped your hand, Emily.
I have a black cat that comes to my house and feed him, so I'm not a racist.
All right, so here's mine.
Yeah, let's lay another one on me.
I will lay another one on you.
I hope this person apologizes for sounding like an asshole.
This is Laura O. And actually, I do want to say that we had a problem. Like, the boardroom is actually a really good bar.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, when we do this segment, it's usually super easy to find, like, one-star Yelp reviews.
Right.
But it was actually hard. Like,
yeah.
you know, because everybody, like, who leaves Yelp reviews, like, really likes this place.
Yeah.
And so do we. So I had to, like, find a 2-star Yelp review. And Laura O says, I was drawn to this place with the promise of bacon wrapped tater tots and brunch.
You stole the review that I was going to talk about. I can't believe this shit.
I love how, like, I'm stepping on Steve's material. Oh my God. You do jokes about how white people and black people are different? I do jokes about how white people and black people are different.
So tell me more about this one that was
talk about
for
this.
her bacon wrapped tater tots.
First off, she
And
was
brunch.
drawn to this place with the promise of bacon wrapped tater tots.
Like she's a cartoon character.
I'll go to this bar under one condition.
Hey. They're like desperately trying to get this woman out of her house for years. They're like, they have bacon wrapped tater tots. She's like, I'll finally go.
I lost my review. Hold on a
Oh
second.
well.
Oh, here we go. The fact their cocktails lack essential ingredients, however, is the reason I'm giving this bar a low rating. I ordered an Irish coffee that didn't have any whipped cream on top and a pisco sour that didn't have any egg whites in it. Like, okay, will we all agree that this is like a dive bar?
Yeah.
I
would
mean,
say,
and like Andrew, I think you have like a little bit more like experience in this because I think you went to like mixology school.
I did at one point.
College boy. This is the kind of bar you would walk in and be like, "Yo, bartender, like set them up, pisco sours."
Exactly. Just, like, break out the egg whites. We're all drinking piscos. Like, yeah, this would be the last place I would walk into and expect like, hey, do you guys have like rosemary tincture that you can make a proper,
I'm going to
herb
go out on
sour
a
or
limb.
whatever?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they're not muddling very much here.
Right. probably not.
I do have a
A lot of
professional.
muddling is just done with a shoe or something like that. It's just like
That's a shoehorn. That's not something you should be
Only
using,
when
like-
needed. Only when absolutely necessary.
stick like a doll's arm in it.
I beg to differ. Our muddling is professionally done.
Our bartenders went to the finest muddling school in Ireland.
And she closes out by saying, I can excuse poorly made cocktails in a dive bar, but an incorrectly made one is where I have to draw the line. You know, and so what we're learning here is that Laura has limits.
I would like to see Laura like in a shitty country bar in the middle of Tracy or something and walk in with her "Where's my egg whites and my pisco sour" face and watch her get trampled to death.
This doesn't even taste like egg whites. Get the fuck.
You got the layering all wrong on my Pousse Cafe.
Maybe she tipped her hand at the very end where she writes bonus
Sorry to be an
tip.
asshole.
She's like, I'm gonna if I'm gonna write a review,
Right.
people should learn something. So this last tip is for free.
Okay.
It's a bonus tip.
Lay it
For
on me.
good cocktails, check out Tony Nix or 15 Romolo. So it's like you go to the very end and you listen to this whole review and then you
Right.
realize, it's just like an ad for like some other bar.
All right, next and finally is JR.
Or
And
if he's from Boston, JR.
JR. And JR says that this place is a wannabe North Beach bar, which I don't think it is a wannabe North Beach bar because it's in North Beach. So,
I mean, if you were at third division,
yeah.
and you had a bunch of Italian shit on the bar on the
if you're in Grant and Green in Monterrey, Mexico, and you're like, hey, this is a wannabe North Beach bar.
But this is actually, by definition, in North Beach, so it's a North Beach bar.
So here's he goes on to justify it by saying no locals. I don't think that's true. A bunch of lame ass games to try to draw in the underage crowd.
I don't see any
Like-
games in here.
Well, no, I
you
think
mean
he
like
means
trivia?
sports.
Oh, sports.
To draw in the young.
When I hear, games,
I'm
I'm thinking,
taking this guy's like
pinball.
90 years old and doesn't understand why sports are on in a bar.
They're pulling the old put sports on the TV gimmick.
Yeah.
That'll never
It's
last.
so I walked into this dive bar and they had sports on. What the fuck?
Oh my god. They did not like a terrible jukebox, which I actually heard pretty good music the whole time I've been here. And bartenders not friendly, and they let their friends steal wallets off the bar. which I think he got his wallet stolen off of the bar, and
Or maybe he had his friend's wallet stolen.
So,
yeah.
all right. So,
so now he just
here's where we're at.
extrapolated and made it.
So,
They love it. They encourage it.
translation, this guy was shit-faced.
Right.
And got his wallet stolen off the bar where he left it unattended.
Not a big fan
and
of
he's
sports.
blaming the boardroom. Right, not a big, yeah. I think that was just a smokescreen to get to
Yeah.
the point.
That's like one of those guys who blames everything else because something bad that he probably could have prevented.
Right.
I had my wallet stolen, but I was hammered. It's like there's a local comic, Richard Toomer, does a joke about a guy on a minibus who just gets up and goes, hey everyone, which one of you pissed my pants?
I'm going to write you a bad Yelp review.
So you want to go to our final analysis, Phil
Let's do
Giuano?
that. Sure, why not?
Steve Henry, what is your final analysis, Phil Giuano, of the boardroom in a North Beach bar?
Yeah. What are we at?
Dare
The
I-
corner of what is the corner of Green and something else?
I think it's Stockton. Is it Stockton or Grant?
Oh, yeah.
Grant maybe. No, not Powell. Powell and Green, right? Powell and
That's
Green.
Green? Powell and
Amy
Green.
Andresco from our research department.
This has been the where the fuck are we segment of
Yeah,
the show,
we're
where we
at-
spent 20 minutes trying to figure out the cross streets
We're
in front
Hey,
of us.
listen.
Powell and Green.
I've been out of this town for 15 years. Don't fucking ask me where we are.
I think we're at the corner of Hunters Point and Merritt Park.
But to answer the question, I like the boardroom. I think
Nice.
this is a good place. We were going to go to the other place. which I think is also a good place. But this is a fine last-minute substitution. I like it.
I would still go even further. I would say it is not a last-minute substitution. It is a first-string quarterback. I would come here.
You'd say it's the Tom Brady of bars, like brought in as a replacement.
And then goes on to win 3 Super Bowls.
Exactly. While the first bar goes on to obscurity with the Buffalo Bills and the Dallas Cowboys.
Steve Bowyer.
Should we talk about a couple of the ones that he lost, or no? Should we skip that?
I was gonna tell Steve to bow his head when we talk about Tom Brady.
Those years don't
but
count.
Then
Those were steroid years.
those goddamn Giants.
David Tyree was so juiced up.
I will never.
18-1.
Steve, let me tell you.
Drop the mic.
I love you. I love you like a brother, but I will never forgive you for doing that to me.
on my own show.
And if I have to bring up the Red Sox coming back from 3-0 down to the Yankees, I will.
No, it's.
Oh, we could talk about 10-year-old sports events all day.
And who doesn't like to hear about 10-year-old sports events by old drunk people in a bar? Andrew, what is your final analysis of the boardroom?
I think it's a great place. I came here before once to watch a soccer game, and actually this particular booth is
kind of scene of the crime.
I mean, it's a great booth if you're sitting and watching the rest of the bar. But if you're trying to all watch a sporting event, a lot of this booth is right under a TV, so you can't really see anything from about half of the booth.
I mean,
that's my only complaint, though. I mean, like if you have eyes when you sat down, you will avoid that mistake. So it's not really a bad thing.
I mean, I'm going to allow that. I mean,
okay,
this booth is great for podcasting, but maybe not so great to watch insignificant soccer games.
If I were them, I'd put a sign on this booth saying for podcasting only.
The podcasting booth, yeah.
And you?
Oh my! Like I said, this is a first-string bar for me.
Oh, yeah.
I do, despite the fact that I had one of my worst comedy moments in this bar a long time ago.
But
and
you know what? You can't hold that against the bar. What are you, a Yelp reviewer?
But
you're like, I wasn't funny here. Yelp,
no.
1 star.
I'm not saying that. I'm above that. Through the miracle of psychotherapy, I've gotten over that horrible event.
I deleted all those reviews
in my mind.
Excellent.
So I think we're going to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Steve Henry, oh my God, thank you for coming on and being such a great guest.
Thanks for having me. Long-time fan, first-time guest.
Wait until the royalty checks start coming to your mailbox.
Oh yeah.
We're sorry about all the attention and everything that your children will be getting because of being on this.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We made your children superstars in the podcasting community.
So I'll be changing my number, the next day or two. It's all good.
Just look for an angry person walking the beach on New Jersey. Be like,
I'll you can contact my assistant if you have any any other media requests.
Right. If any of our fans try to harass you, just don't make eye contact and contact us immediately.
You're available for mall openings and stuff like that, right?
And kiosk openings.
Fantastic.
All right. So this is SFBarkast. I'm Jeff Cleary.
I'm Andrew Lauder.
And Steve Henry, thank you for being on. And we'll see you next time.